Hello and welcome to episode 422 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. I'm Ben Olson. With me is Nathan Fox. We're the co-founders of LSATdemon.com and the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. Be LSAT famous, share news, and ask questions on our website, thinkinglsat.com. On Monday, October 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, I will be doing my regular class, but it will be free. So all you need is a Demon free account. You can get that at lsatdemon.com. And then you can sign up for this class in particular at lsat.link/free. We will be doing logical reasoning, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we will. So, yep, come to that if you can. Do you have anything you want to share, Nathan?
No, let's get into it.
All right. So this first email, it looks like is from our very own Leslie, our personal statement editor.
I think so.
Okay. You want to read it?
Yeah. A student applying to University of Denver was contacted by email a few days after submitting her application. They're giving her a chance to update her personal statement for their new prompt, which is... I have the new prompt here, all in italics. It says, a recent survey of 24,000 practicing lawyers by the University of Denver-based Institute for the Advancement of the American Legal System, IAALS, has determined that the professional competencies of early career lawyers are as important as the legal skills that they develop in law school. Describe how your distinctive life experiences have shaped two, and then in parentheses, the numeral two.
Okay, this is
fucking lawyers are just the absolute worst. Have shaped two of the following competencies identified by IAALS as meaningful to the successful practice of law, resilience, perseverance, integrity, resourcefulness, passion, compassion. Jesus Christ. That's all one sentence? No, it's two sentences. It's a mouthful.
This seems like an incorrect use of semicolon. You can use the semicolon for lists, but the only reason to do that would be that if the items in your list require commas.
Commas within them. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, that those semicolons are totally totally misplaced. I mean, I hated the use of the initialism, and I also hated the use of the two.
Yeah.
Just crawl out of your own asshole, please. Whoever wrote that. So yeah, they want you to write about resilience, perseverance, integrity, resourcefulness, passion, compassion.
Okay.
It would be challenging to write a personal statement that does not touch on at least one of those very broad concepts.
Yeah.
But anyway, this applicant, she called them and said she believed her personal statement had already answered the question. Oh, no. The person she spoke to said something along the lines of, it would be beneficial to make these traits more explicit without being explicit, but that she could use her personal statement if she thought it was sufficient. Her existing personal statement, if she thought it was sufficient. You're skeptical. Ben's looking.
All of this is strange to me because she submitted her application and then she was given this chance to update her personal statement based on their new prompt. Did they really go through the list of applicants and determine which personal statements seemed to satisfy this new prompt and which did not? Or did they just send this blanket email to everyone who had already applied?
Yeah,
that's my guess.
I have multiple. Yeah, I agree. I have multiple hypotheses. Yeah, same thing. You know, it could be University of Denver is like kind of a shitty law school, right? I mean, I don't know what they're ranked. Not that rank means everything, but we're talking about a like 100th in the country type of a law school, right?
I don't know, but yeah, very likely since most fall into that category.
I'm going to go to our scholarship estimator. If new listeners, go to lsatdemon.com/scholarships. And we've got information about all of the law schools in a very useful tool where you can just put in your LSAT and your GPA and you can calculate, figure out what types of schools might give you what types of scholarships. But I can also go here to to learn about this Denver law. 80th in the country, tied with the likes of Case Western, Drexel, and Penn State. UP, University Park, I guess that is. Okay. So, it's fine. Like, it's a fine law school. It's just, it's another law school that you've never heard of because there's so many of them.
Yep.
The type of school that admits, 50th percentile LSAT is 160. So pretty pedestrian type of a law school. They could have been shocked that this applicant had an application in at the beginning of the admission cycle.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh shit, we meant to update our prompt. Let's email them and tell them, hey, we have a new prompt. I'm like 50%. That's what happened here.
Yeah.
The other 50% is more like, let's see how interested these people really are. It'd be kind of a good strategy to send the updated prompt to everyone who applies, like after they apply.
And then just see how much they jump.
Hell yeah. Just see who responds.
Yeah.
Like, they don't all have to respond. You're still going to evaluate their application as is. And you're probably still going to admit them based on their LSAT and GPA, if you like their LSAT and GPA. But it'd be kind of a crafty maneuver, right? Ben, we should start a law school just so that we could be an admissions off. I mean, we would be the smartest by far admissions team out there. It would be amazing. The kind of games we would be able to play with applicants, But I mean, hey, if they want to know who's really into their school, this is a good way, or if they want to know what type of applicant am I really getting here? Because if this is a hyper type A applicant, gets this and goes, oh, great, I get an opportunity to update my personal statement. Cool. And then they crank it out in like 2 hours and they submit the corrected, updated. Like, that's what professional people would do.
Well, it also shows interest in the University of Denver on some level, right? If you're not as interested.
It shows a lot of interest in the University of Denver. If you're serious about this endeavor, and if you're like cut out for lawyering. See, because what I would do in real life, like if I put myself in my own shoes as an applicant 15 years ago, I wasn't meant for law school. I wasn't cut out for this shit. And if I get that, I go, oh God, oh my God, oh, I have to write a whole... I have to update and then I do this thing that this applicant apparently did, which was like immediately call them and go, hey, I think my personal statement already answers your prompt. Do I really have to do a new one? And that's like, you're just not showing your worker bee nature by doing that. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I would have done because I'm like lazy. And it's, I don't know, I could see an admissions office, if they were doing this just as part of a game, I could see them going like, yeah, that's probably not the one that we want.
Yeah. I don't know. The problem with this theory, though, is that it attributes a lot of like organizational savvy and just organization period.
Well, like I said, it's like 50-50. It could be the exact opposite where they were
like
lazy.
Everybody's like, oh, hey, you submitted that?
Oh, fuck. Somebody's already submitting applications. Oh, my God.
I thought we had changed the prompt. No, we didn't change the prompt. Where's Joey? I thought he changed it.
I thought you were doing it. No. God damn it. It's you.
All right. Tell these people to resubmit.
I'm like 50-50, right? Okay. Anyway. So this applicant just calls them and says, hey, I think I already answered the question, which you might have already answered the question totally sufficiently. And, maybe you're like, yeah, they haven't even read it yet. They're just telling me about the updated prompt.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I think I already answered their updated prompt. So you call them and you say, hey, I think I already answered your updated prompt.
Yep.
Anyway, she got the sense that the person did have her personal statement in front of them because they referenced the first line, but that they hadn't read it word for word. Well, I think all that means is you call them and they go, oh yeah. And they start digging through, they've probably got 3 applications at this point in the cycle, right? I mean, this is why you apply early, by the way.
Yeah.
So good job to this student for following our advice.
I think it's more than 3,
early.
but yeah. Okay.
It's a small stack. It's not the 300 or 3,000 that they're going to have later in the cycle. It's relatively few. By the way, University of Denver gets 2,094 applications last year and offers admission to 1,015 of them. So about 50% acceptance rate. Of that, only 276 enrollees from the applicant pool. So like, just to give people a peek behind the curtain, and it's all here on the 509 reports. This should be called like the 509 podcast, because like all we're doing is telling people, hey, can you look at the public information and just kind of think about the game that's being played here? Yeah. Because they get 2,000 applications, then they admit half of those people. Then 3/4 of those people say, nah, never mind.
See you later.
Just kidding. 3/4 of the admitted ones say,
so wait, so their yield is 25%. Is that how that's calculated? It's the number who accept divided by the total number who were accepted.
Yeah, enrollment rate from offers of admission, I believe, would be the line. And it says 27% enrollment rate from offers of admission. But like, I think most applicants are shocked to learn this. If you haven't looked at a 509 report and thought about what it means.
Well, let's think about that first number, right? 50% of applicants who apply are accepted.
So not a very prestigious school to begin with.
But how many people are applying there and feel like, right? Oh, if only I could get into the University of Denver.
Oh, they give everybody the impression that they're on the edge, Yeah. Oh, we can't guarantee anything, No, there's no LSAT score that automatically gets you in. There's no GPA that automatically gets you in. We evaluate every applicant holistically, and then we admit half of them because 3/4 of those people tell us to fuck off, and we need at least 2. We have to get 200 people to pay tuition. Yeah. And it's hard for us to get 200 people to pay tuition.
That's exactly how they got to 1,000, right? I mean, historically, they know their acceptance rate, their yield is low. Yeah. So they're like, okay, if we want to fill a class of 200x students, we got to go out and throw 1,000
not only
hooks
is
in
it
the water. Yeah.
Not prestigious, and I'm not shitting on this school in particular. I'm sorry, University of Denver. I'm not shitting on you particularly. I'm just kind of blowing up your spot. I'm just trying to explain that you and Drexel and all these other law schools are all very similarly situated. You're fighting over the exact same applicants, the savvy ones. This applicant probably, because they're listening to our advice, they're going to apply to 15 schools.
Yep.
And that's why the University of Denver ends up in a position where, hey, if you want to fill your class, you're going to have to admit a lot of people. You're going to admit here, they're admitting about half of the people who apply. Yeah. And you got to think it through, right? Who's getting denied? Well, the people getting denied are the people with garbage LSAT scores, garbage GPA. It's kind of hard to get denied based on your personal statement if you wrote a reasonable professional document. If you've got the right LSAT and GPA, you're getting into this school.
Yep.
Let me look at their scholarship matrix real quick. Scrolling down to the bottom of the second page of their 509 report. Actually, it's at the top of the third page of their 509 report. I see that of the 200 something who actually attend, 80% of those receive some kind of a grant. And looks like a little more than 40% are getting either half or full tuition. So, I mean, if you just think about that yield even more granularly, it's like we're going to admit a lot of people, and we're going to offer scholarship money to most of those people.
Yep.
Or maybe the ones that they offer scholarships to are more likely to say yes, which of course that would be true. So they
they're also
probably
more
admit
likely
a
to
whole
say
bunch
no.
of people and offer them nothing.
They're more likely to say no too for the same reason.
Because they have better offers elsewhere.
They have better offers elsewhere. Yeah. So it's hard to know what that ratio is, but yeah.
It's a school that throws a lot of money around. You know, the 75th percentile grant amount is $51,000 at this school.
What's the cost of tuition again?
It's got to be that much, right? Cost of tuition is $55,600 full time, whether you're resident or non-resident. They also have a part-time program that is a bargain at $42,000 a year.
Okay, sarcasm for anyone who doesn't know yet. But yeah, and that number too, right? The 55, they had to come to that slowly over time because they were offering so much money to try to get people to say yes. But you can't offer a lot of money off of 20,000 without cutting into your actual expenses, right? So they had to keep bumping that up. So they're bumping the 1,000 applicants that they turn around and accept, and they're bumping up the price so they have the flexibility to offer what appear like attractive discounts, which in reality, they just raise the price and then turn around and immediately offered it as a discount.
And yeah, and it's the kind of school where, you know, if I look at our student population, if I look at the people who show up in my classes day to day, their 50th percentile at this school is 160, and their 75th percentile at this school is 161.
Oof,
it is extremely difficult for this school to get qualified applicants. We've said it on the show a lot, Ben, that, you know, I've known thousands of LSAT students over the years. And I did go to law school myself. I never practiced law, thank God, but I've got a pretty good sense of what the world is like. And for the people who I believe are going to be able to like participate in the discourse in law school and write the papers that need to be written and pass the exams and have a chance on the bar exam, which is hard depending on where you live. Yeah. It's actually hard, unlike the LSAT.
Yeah.
An LSAT like 160 or 161, like if you can't eventually work your way up to that, then I'm just terrified of your prospects in law school anyway. You know, like if you max out at 150 something, if you gave it a real good shot, you know, if you max out at 152 or whatever, man, I feel like law school is going to be hard, and I feel like the bar exam is going to be even harder than that. You know, what is the LSAT testing? English and logic. Like, can you read carefully enough to understand what documents say? And if you can't do that at a level of competency of, you know, 160, 161, dear God, I'm just, you know, so I shudder to think about the outcomes for the kinds of people who are going to go pay $55,000 a year to go to a school like this. Yeah. Again, not picking on this particular school, just all schools, you know, within shouting distance, like schools ranked 50 through 200, you know, like the higher ranked schools, I get a little more nervous, obviously. But man, this game is being played on the backs of the people who are really not going to probably have good outcomes, right? Like the people who are paying for this are really paying for a sketchy bargain. I don't know. That's nothing new for listeners of the show, but it's just. No,
I mean, as you were talking, what I was trying to figure out, and maybe you already mentioned this earlier, and I'm sorry that I forgot, but the number of people who are paying full price.
20%.
20%.
Yeah, it's the bottom 20%.
Oh,
you know? So
yeah, I see that.
The people below 156, that's their 25th percentile LSAT, is 156 and a 3.3 undergrad, you know? So it's like you did okay in undergrad. Not really though. Like B plus average, under a B plus average. Okay. So you're not like a rock star in undergrad. And then on the LSAT, the best you can achieve is a 156. Maybe you didn't prep, you know, so you're just not a savvy applicant. Those people, ironically, it's like, okay, maybe you've got a little bit better chance because you didn't really prep for the LSAT when you got your 156. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you do have the horsepower. It was just never like unearthed.
Manifest.
Right.
Well, this is what's so ironic about this number. I guess what I'm focusing on here is, okay, so 20% of the class is paying full price.
Yeah.
On the one hand, that's an extraordinarily small number.
Yeah.
Right? Like if people found out that at law schools, 20% are paying full price, 80% are getting some
Raise
sort
your
of
hand
discount.
if you're paying full price.
Yeah.
And 1 in 5 people, hi, stand up, you know? Everybody should give them a round of applause. Like, yeah, thank you for paying everything. I'm glad the lights are on because of you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah. Back to class. But people would be shocked to find out that that number is so small. On the flip side, that number is actually also huge at the same time, because I just feel sick for the people who are paying $55,000 a year to go to this school.
It's 1 in 5 of their 276 enrollees. So at the school, it's 1 out of 5 of those. So it's like
45,
50, 40, 50, no, a little over 50, right? 55.
Yeah. Okay.
55 people paying full price. And then there's another 36% who are getting something less than half tuition. Yeah, okay, 80, let's say. There's another like 80 who are paying somewhere between half and full, you know, on a $55,000 tuition, 55,600.
And we don't know. I mean, it could be half, but the reality is a lot of these things are these like, you know, these
half plus $1.
Yeah, we'll give you. Oh, we got the presidential $2,000 award merit scholarship for the first year.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
like $2,000. When you get that in an email, you're like, oh shit! It sounds like a lot of money, but it really is a lot just of money, a trick.
Just not compared to the exorbitant, you know, like fantasy money.
Yeah,
that they're charging the total nominal tuition. Anyway. Yeah. So it's like half the school who's paying basically all of the money.
Yep.
You know, and it's the bottom quarter of the school that's paying really like they're paying for themselves and one other person. You know, and then, yeah, the full tuition part, you know, again, we can raise our hands, you know, in the classroom. Hey, everybody raise your hand if you're here on the full tuition scholarship. 16% of the hands go up.
Yeah.
Kind of a lot.
Yeah. It's almost 1 in 5.
Yeah.
It's the other half of the class.
Right? Yeah. There's 1 in 5 who are paying for everything. And then there's 1 in 5 who are paying nothing at all.
Yeah.
And man, can you imagine if that should be like a requirement. Put us in charge, everybody. Put us in charge of the U.S. Department of Education section on legal education.
Yeah, the rules,
if there is one. Yep.
Rule 703, because I think there's 702, would be...
On the first day of school, you have to do this.
Yep.
In every class. It'll only take 5 minutes.
The easy rule.
That's what I'm talking about. We need to be in charge. That would be the greatest. I mean, it only seems fair, right? Like, hey, the purpose of this document is to do that. That's what this 509, this is the American Bar Association section 509, which mandates that all the law schools put out this information report every single year. By the way, lsatdemon.com/scholarships, all the PDF links down the right-hand side of the page link directly to these reports. But it's a consumer protection measure that has these reports public in the first place. Ben's got an idea. I can't wait.
Well, you know how they're trying. It's a consumer protection measure that hasn't been fully
birthed,
utilized. Right?
We need to be the midwives for this consumer protection measure.
Yeah, because the information is, it's presented poorly and it's poorly formatted and it's just condensed together so that the vast, vast majority of people who see it, all they see is just a bunch of numbers and they go, what does this mean?
We need to teach. We need to use our superpowers of teaching to make this material come to life.
Well, I was going to say yes. And visualization, right? Like
That's what I'm talking
image. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you could literally have a picture of a classroom.
Yeah. Yes.
Stuff
Okay.
like that,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, do it. Let's do it. Okay, we're going to
Okay.
make this.
Okay.
Seems like, it's just AI, get AI to do, but a visualization of the class
Yep.
sitting in a law school classroom. It can look like the paper chase, like the big grand Harvard law, because that's what they're all selling is that experience, right?
Yeah.
And it could be first day of class. It'll just be roll call. Oh God, roll call. It's beautiful. Yeah.
But you could do it for all the information in here, right? You could say like percentage of you who go into big law.
Yep.
Okay.
And it'll be the same people the ones who are getting the scholarship. It has to be the same seats that stand up.
Yeah. Yeah. And those of you who are getting a JD, advantage job.
JD Advantage. Yeah. Which means not a lawyer. JD Advantage means like you were applying to be the shift manager at Starbucks and they saw that you had a JD on your resume and, oh, that's a management role. JD Advantage. Check. Very low bar for what JD Advantage means, right? Like there's bar jobs where you're an attorney practicing law, and there are other jobs which are JD Advantage.
Yeah, everything else really.
Well, for sure, right? I mean, you don't even have to be applying to be shift manager. You could be applying to be whatever the lowest man is on the totem pole at Starbucks. Still JD Advantage.
You learned something from law school, didn't you?
Yeah. Although in that book, don't go to law school unless there is a chapter about the JD disadvantage that you can have when you apply. Because it would be confusing, wouldn't it?
Like, why are you doing this job when you have a JD?
Some employers aren't going to get it. If Ben and I were hiring a business manager and we saw a resume that had a JD on it, we would go, I understand what that means. Like, you're smart, you're hardworking, you did it, and then you hated it. Well, we hated it too. So we get it, we feel you.
Yeah.
But most employers are going to look at that and they're going to go, oh, couldn't cut it as a lawyer, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, my mother still asks me regularly if I'm ever going to take the bar exam.
What?
Yeah, that's my actual mother. And
she wants you to practice?
She doesn't want me to practice. She just doesn't quite understand, I think, that, she still has lawyer on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And it's now she does it in a jokey way, but don't you think, just for fun?
See how it'd go?
I'm like, I'll tell you how it would go. I would fucking fail miserably unless I worked my ass off, which I'm not going to do. So I would have to really study a lot to learn that shit.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you. Anyway, can we build this tool? The roll call tool?
Yeah, let's do it.
1L roll call.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Oh, God, it's beautiful. Do it. No expense spared. I think we should just do it. Number one priority of LSAT Demon LLC. Do it.
The lights go out, but hey, we got something coming for you.
Fire all our teachers, Ben. I'm going to teach all our classes from this point forward so that we can redirect all resources to the main canon, which is the roll call tool, the visualization. It's going to be awesome.
In a South Park sort of style.
Oh, that's a beautiful idea. Yeah, I like that a lot. For sure. And then the Canadian law schools, they have to look Canadian, like how the South Park Canadians look, with the head divided into two pieces. Anyway.
Oh, I don't remember that, but yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, it's a funny joke. Okay. Wow. I don't imagine that producer Eric thought that we were going to go that far afield on our first email of the agenda. I'm not even done reading it yet.
Oh, we're okay. Okay. Yeah. I was about to say,
Yeah.
let's go to Jordan, but
Okay,
yeah,
so
what's
we're
up?
back to the University of Denver.
Okay.
This student has gotten this message from the school saying, hey, we updated our personal statement prompt. Either we were too lazy to do that before we opened our applications, or we just did it 5 minutes ago. I guess that's possible, which is an odd timing. Or we're just fucking with you to see how much you really like our school. So we're going to send you this new prompt and see if you revise your personal statement. This student gets on the horn and says, hey, I think I already answered your prompt.
Yep.
So now there's a person in the admissions office who is reading the first line of the personal statement. So they've gone and dug out your application and they're looking at it and they're reading the first line of your personal statement. Of course, they haven't read the whole thing. So what Leslie and student are wondering is whether we should just make the changes since they gave her the opportunity, or should she stick to her guns since she actually thinks her existing personal statement does answer the question?
Okay, so we wrote back to Leslie. I don't remember. Both of us, I think, were on this email, and we said, "Yeah, just make a few changes, make it a little more explicit, and send it back." Right? That's the easiest thing to do. You have addressed their question. Just add in these words where you need to.
Yeah. Do you want to impress this school?
Yep.
If you know because the response, oh yeah, my personal statement already answered your revised prompt, which I had no chance to read. That's not a good response.
It just doesn't seem believable, even if it is true.
Well, it seems lazy, and
Yeah.
I think I recognize laziness because I myself am so lazy or was so lazy when I was in this same position. If you have an opportunity to show them that you give a shit about their school. Like you have an opportunity to listen to them and take them seriously and to do something that should be super easy, by the way, to do a tiny revision, a 30-minute update, to just throw in a couple of these buzzwords to make it clear that you are explicitly responding to their prompt. You said lazy too, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, look, it's just not that hard to update this, and then you just give them exactly what they just told you they want.
Yeah.
And you demonstrate professionalism by getting back to them right away with just, not with, but I think I already did it right.
Yeah.
Because that's not what they want to hear, I mean,
Yeah.
if that's the message you want to send, I don't think you need to respond at all. You just move on to, let your personal statement speak for itself. Great. It answers the question. It answers the question. Then you don't need to tell them, but I think I already answered your question. It's like you're trying to get out of a homework assignment.
Yeah.
Is how that feels. If I'm the admissions office, I think, again, if Ben and I are magically in the admissions office and playing this game with you, we get that response from you and we're like, yeah, all right. It's not like, oh, denied. It's like, well, did the LSAT and the GPA merit,
Yeah. Well, if you're in that gray zone, then this sort of thing might tip the scale, right?
Totally. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, well, this is somebody who doesn't give a shit about our school, who might deny us, right? Remember, only 25% of the people that we like actually like us back.
Yeah.
When we're at this school. Like we deny half of the people, but then 3/4 of the people we admit deny us.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, if you think it through from their position, this looks like somebody who isn't like that serious about the school.
Yep.
I guess that's it. I guess that's a full response. It just, you have this opportunity to take 30 minutes to just look so professional to this school. Like you've invested however much time and money, application fee, report fees, like shit you've paid to get them to evaluate your app. You're serious enough that you actually applied to their school.
Yeah.
So then if they respond back to you, I just can't imagine doing anything other than, if I'm a lawyer, I'm going to go, oh, sure, no problem. You want me to dot a couple I's, cross a couple T's. And it's like, I sort of understand this little flirtation that we're having.
Yeah.
Oh, I get the opportunity to look really good here. Great. If you actually did apply to 30 schools and you don't really give a shit about this school, then just don't even write them back. Just let your application speak for itself.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking down the rest of this agenda. We have quite a few emails. You game to try this semi-rapid fire?
Especially because we spent 30 minutes on that first one. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this next one's from Jordan. The subject is testing nerves impacting score. Hi all, your podcast has provided some incredible insight into my LSAT journey, so thank you for all of your expert advice. ! I have been studying all summer and the first LSAT I took was in August. Prior to the test, my practice test scores were in the low to mid 170s, with my best being 177.
Nice.
I felt great going into the test, but of course I had technical issues and had to take the retake. Okay.
Shit happens.
Yep. On my retest, I felt I nailed logic games, did great on logical reasoning, but really struggled on my reading comp, freezing up during the first passage and leading me to have 10 minutes to finish the last 2 passages. I got a 168, so I did all right, but that panicking really messed up my confidence. I was signed up for the September exam, but I was not feeling great after my August test. After taking the September exam, I feel pretty good about how I did, but still didn't feel fully in the zone compared to when I'm just taking a practice test. I'm signed up for the October. Any advice on dealing with test day nerves and overthinking before the exam?
You're doing a lot of like analyzing how you were feeling. You're like constantly analyzing how you're feeling and how you felt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're trying to describe that to us, I guess, but it's like, I don't know. Students are terrible at telling how they did on the test. Students cannot predict how well they did on the test. You'll find this yourself if you try to predict your own practice test scores. When you do practice tests, reflect on it and try to predict it before you score the test. I think people probably they probably click straight through, don't they? So like, section 4 finished, click through to, give me my score.
What did I get? Yeah.
But if you stopped and like did a little reflection about it, you're going to find that you aren't like, sometimes you're going to know you totally shit the bed. Yeah. Okay. But you're not really going to know when you did great and when you did just okay. And I am reminded of the student who called me wanting advice about whether they should cancel a score that eventually turned out to be a 178. And this student,
because I've had those stories too. Oh my God. Yeah. It's really bad.
So yeah, just like stop even trying to predict how you did. Do you want to answer the other question? Any advice on dealing with test day nerves and overthinking before the exam?
Yeah, first of all, remember that every practice test that you've taken, including the one that you got a 177 on, was an official exam.
Yeah.
It was administered to people as a real exam.
Yeah.
And then you just came and did it. Either you did it in the Demon, you did it at home. You're going to do this test again at home. You're just doing a test that's graded. That's the only thing that's different. Literally nothing else is different about it. I'm glad that Jordan is taking the August test, then taking the September test, and now signed up for the October exam. Jordan gets the value in retaking when things don't go as well as they could have. So I'm confident that Jordan will get there. Just think of these as practice tests. That's my main advice.
And lengthen your horizon. Jordan took the first LSAT in August. Sometimes people who are taking their first test in August are doing so because they're trying to force in their application this cycle and they're trying to do like a one and done type of a thing.
Yeah. So every test has more weight because it's like, this is it. I got to get it now because then I want to turn around and submit my application, as opposed to, I got 3-4 more tests.
I noticed that Jordan was signed up though for the September exam. So that's great. Hopefully, you should have kind of already been planning on taking October. And then what's this cycle look like, Ben? Do we have November, December of 23?
I'm pretty sure we have November. Let me just
November. November.
I'm going to lsat.link/dates.
Yeah.
Yep, we have a November test. That's on November 10 and 11. And then we don't have anything in December, but then we have a January 12th and 13th test.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, just hopefully, Jordan, you were prepared to take August and September and October and November. You're like on, your mindset needs to be, these are all just practice tests. I'm going to continue taking practice tests in the Demon in between these official practice tests, but they're all just practice tests. And I'm just going to continue to improve my skills until I get one of those really good numbers out of my record, something at or above my median. And then I'm going to be done prepping, but have a longer time horizon so that you're not like putting all your eggs in the upcoming basket.
Yeah, well, we've talked about having a default presumption of taking all 5 tests, which would mean if you start in August and you do all 5, you're going until January
24. Yeah.
And you just stop if you happen to knock it out of the park before then.
Your best practice test is a 177. I mean, if you did that again, I think you could probably just hang it up.
Yep.
Right. And even a 176 or a 175 or something, you might just go like, hey, that's more than enough for all the schools that I'm going to apply to. And maybe you decide you're done. But I think people, and I get it because time and money, right? It's like, well, I don't want to keep spending time. I don't want to keep spending money on the LSAT. So I'm really hopeful that this next one is going to be the one. But I think too much of that can be really unhealthy for your score. I think it can be counterproductive because you start just holding on to the steering wheel a little too tightly on those official tests.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that was not really rapid fire, Ben. Do we need to pick up the pace even more? Lucy writes in,
we need to try
with the subject LSAT timer.
Hi, team. I was wondering if you all would explore the option of making the time we took for each question available after we complete a section. I know you, Nathan, specifically advocate for not bookmarking, flagging questions as we take the test, but sometimes that leads me not quite remembering which questions gave me trouble or which ones took me longer to do and my thought process after the fact. And getting that information would help me identify which questions to revisit in the section. Thank you for your consideration. So specifically what Lucy is asking for is at the end of the section, she's reviewing it or she's reviewing the test. She wants to be able to see, oh, I took 2 minutes and 45 seconds on question 4. I took 30 seconds on question 5, and so on.
Yeah, we could. I don't think you really need it though, because the ones that you got right. And the ones you got wrong, those ones you're definitely going to review because you got them wrong. I'm not really worried about the ones that took you a little bit longer, but you got them right. I think if you just review your mistakes, you're going to be reviewing the stuff that you really, really are struggling with, which will help you on all those other things automatically. But anyway, and I don't want to train people to flag stuff during the test. But I guess I kind of get this. Like if the demon's keeping track in the background anyway, can we show that to them on review? Can we just surface that data?
We could. And we could also do it more with a guiding hand, maybe for some question that takes exorbitantly long. If they got it right, it's just like, I don't know. Did you think about this question a lot? Were you struggling with it? Were you going back and forth with it? And it prompts them to review it. Maybe that's a benefit for them. It's less important when you're doing worse on these kinds of tests, right? When you're getting 10 questions wrong, it's like, okay, let's focus on the 10 questions that you got wrong. But maybe as you get better, this information could prompt you to. I mean,
I could see it like if they're clicking through their entire test after the test, then you just show them a column that here's the time elapsed on all those questions. And then the guiding hand, I guess it could like put stuff in red if it was missed or if it took you like way longer. It shows up in a like flagged kind of a state.
Sure. Yeah. We can explore it.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Next one is from Hannah. The subject is plan for last 5 minutes of section. Ooh.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'll
You.
let you read it. Oh, it's me. Hey, Nate and
Yep.
Ben. I hope you're well. While I basically had to unlearn everything from my other LSAT prep course and trade that brain space for demon methods, I still like the idea of their, that is, other LSAT prep course, 5-minute plan. The other prep company gave us strategies to follow when there are only 5 minutes left in the section, such as skimming the list question in a logic game we didn't reach so we could get that extra point. I know such methods can be a bad shortcut if applied throughout the entire section, and I acknowledge that the demon tries to de-emphasize watching the clock, but I was wondering if you would suggest a similar thing for when time is running out. If so, I'd love to hear your tips for each type of section. Thanks in advance. Best regards, Hannah.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes left. You got the 5-minute warning. You haven't done game 4 yet. Where are you? You're in the middle of game 3. You're done with game 3. I'm a little confused here, but let's assume that you're done with game 3.
Then
Should
no
you
shit,
just-
you do the list question. I mean, well, like you're going to read the game, you're going to read each rule.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you might not go off making worlds like extensive, you know, I guess I can see how you go answer the first question, the list question, you're going to be able to do by process of elimination anyway. Most often.
And you could answer the if questions relatively easily, get one more rule.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, the thing is, people who ask for this tip, you know, you're asking me about the last 5 minutes out of a 35 or maybe a 53-minute section, right? You're asking me to do what to do with the last 1/7 of your time. Well, okay, it's the last 1/7 of your time. There's not like you're gonna get at best, you're gonna get very marginal benefit from any strategy you employ in these last 5 minutes. I mean, what I would recommend is you start the timer, you start the section, you turn off the clock. Okay, because I really, for the vast majority of your time, I don't want you to even have a consciousness of the time. Work for 6/7 of your time, 30 out of your 35 minutes. Then at the 5-minute warning, you get a message. It pops up. Okay, so 5 minutes left. Don't panic. That's 1/7 of your time. You have time to continue working. You don't do anything different, really. You're going to have to dismiss this message that says 5-minute warning. The clock now is going to be visible for the rest of the section. You just don't look at it, but it's visible again. You can't control that. Then I would just finish the question you're working on, like get it right. Whatever question you're answering, finish answering that question. Then you've got to get your guesses bubbled in because you're going to run out of time and you don't, you know, you want to make sure you get your free points. So you got to go through and click any answer, D, to the end of the section. That takes like 15 seconds.
Yep.
Then just come back to where you were. That's the important strategy. Okay. And from that point, it's like, okay, let me get one more question right. And that's the strategy for all sections of the test. Get one more question right. Because your opponents, your fellow competitors, they're going to be doing all kinds of crazy shit. They're going to be panicking. They're going to be trying to answer 4 questions in 5 minutes. And they're just going to miss all of them. So you need to just remain calm and solve one more question. That's the strategy for me for all 3 sections. That's the strategy. What, you want to tweak that at all?
No, I think that's good. And we got to focus on the long game here. And that is to just continue getting better at the test as opposed to, just again, trying to pick up a few points here and there with a strategy that's going to work sometimes. I mean, fine, do the list question, maybe do some if questions, but let's get back to getting better at games.
Yeah, right. Like get all the points. I don't want to spend time talking about how you can eke out one more point. That's not what we do at LSAT Demon. What we do is we help you harvest buckets full of points because you're really understanding the test. You're getting so good at the games that you're not like trying to scrape off the list question, and because I know that this prep company probably would have said, oh, do the list, If you only got 2 games, that's okay. Get the list question for the 3rd game and get the list question for the 4th game.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like you're surrendering before you even started the battle. It's like get better at the games so that you don't put yourself in that situation in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's what we're really all about.
Well, notice too, when you get better at the games, when you just say, hey, like I'm playing the long game, I got 5 minutes left, but I'm going to try my best at this game. You'd be surprised on how many times you can actually do worlds in 3 minutes and then answer 3 questions in the remaining 2 minutes or
even
more. Actually,
questions. Yeah. You might end up acing the game in 4.5 minutes. It's possible.
Yeah, it's not common at the end of a game section, but it's not also never happened. It happens a decent amount of time. Yeah. But here's the bigger thing. Okay, so you practice that. Let's say it doesn't work out. You don't get to any of the questions, but you tried to do worlds. You tried to learn from that experience under pressure. Now you're a little bit better at the games. What does that mean? Well, the next time you do a game section, maybe you're just a little bit faster at each of those games because you're better. And now you don't have 5 minutes, you have 7 minutes or 6 minutes to do that last game. That's what we're really going for. That's what we want you to eventually achieve.
Yeah. And that makes me worry, that the student is hanging on to this thing that they learned from a bad LSAT prep. We're not going to name their name, I guess, but we know what the course is, and they teach all kinds of other terrible strategies. You're hanging on to this one strategy, this 5-minute plan. And I just don't want that to interfere with your 35-minute plan, which is to get good enough at this stuff that you really understand it. You start doing the test on a higher level. You start seeing how easy it actually is. If you get rid of the gimmicky shortcut, race the clock type of shit. It's not that we de-emphasize watching the clock. That's what Hannah says here. We de-emphasize watching the clock. No, we forbid watching the clock. It's not a de-emphasize. There's not a balance between accuracy and speed. It's accuracy. You have to do good work. You have to get paid for the work that you're going to do. And the better you get at that, the faster you're going to get. But that part has to come for free, right? It's effortless speed is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one. Anonymous. Go ahead.
Howdy. I am getting ready to apply to schools for fall of 2024. My last 4 practice tests have been 160, and my latest and highest one was 162. Okay. I took June, scored 160, took August, another 160. Ugh, but not mad because that's obviously my range, but was hoping for that 162 again. I'm not really interested in any T14, looking to stay local, Texas, but still open to other states/regional schools depending on scholarship offers. I registered for October, but don't know if I should actually wait to take it and apply then since I'm still PTing in the 160s. Should I just go ahead and apply now and withdraw my registration for October? For additional information, my undergrad GPA is 3.8. Oh, damn. Don't waste that GPA. Man, this is all backwards. The whole thing is backwards. Yeah. It's timeline driven.
Yep. Yeah.
We're talking about time on the test. We're also talking about time in the application cycle.
Yeah.
You are forbidden from looking at the timer and the calendar.
Yeah, totally. I agree. This starting with I'm getting ready to apply to schools for fall 2024. So you mean applying in fall 2023? So you mean applying right now? Oh, good. Yeah. What's your highest final official LSAT?
Oh, you don't.
Oh, I'm still, no, I don't have it. I'm still taking, oh, well then you're not, what are you talking about applying this cycle? What are you doing? Yeah, you're shooting yourself in the foot, right? You are hampering your own likelihood of success by planning too much for this particular cycle. You're just hoping for a 162.
You can get a 165. Just let go of this timeline. Get above 165. Heck, maybe even higher. You have a 3.8. I don't know what your undergrad degree was, but as you always say, Nathan, don't make that 3.8 sad.
Yeah, and I get it that you want to stay local, Texas. Okay, but like you're not getting into University of Texas with a 160 or a 162. Like that's not happening. So you're just like, nah. Not only do I not want to go to a top 14, but I also don't want to go to the school that's ranked 15th. That is the obvious best option in the state of Texas. But you're ruling them out too, right? By settling for this LSAT.
Yeah.
And even if even if you don't really want to go to that school, because you probably don't want to barely get into Texas and have to pay full price. But if you got into Texas, it would put you in such a different negotiating position with all of the other local schools that you might actually be interested in.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be nice if the scholarship estimator would filter by state or by region.
It does.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, just put in TX or Texas. You can put either one in the search bar and it will filter out. So I did that.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay. Nobody knows that exists, but that's fantastic. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. So I did that and I put in 3.8 and 160. And there are a lot of schools in Texas, by the way. How many we got here? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 schools, at least in the estimator, and 9 of them are not giving you a full ride. One of them is giving you a full ride. That's Texas Southern, which is ranked 190, whatever that means. Yeah, it's just not, even if you stay local, you're just giving up money, lots of money.
190, by the way, means that their 50th percentile LSAT is 151 and their 50th percentile GPA is a 3.1. So you'd be going to a school with some, questionably attributed colleagues. Like just, wow, that's not going to be like future masters of the universe at that level. Probably not what you think you're getting yourself into law school for, I would guess, in many cases. Anyway, yeah, there's so many mid-range schools. What happens if we bump that up to a 165?
Yeah, good question. A lot more than half scholarships at these schools.
All of a sudden you get Baylor ranked 49th offering full ride.
Yeah.
168 gets you Southern Methodist.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
170
Wow.
gets you Texas A&M all the way up ranked 29th in the country.
Yeah. Full ride. That's what we're talking about here.
Wonder what the difference is between a 160 and a 162. So 160, okay, I see what that looks like. 162, it bumped a couple of them up from like less than half to more than half, whatever that means. But, it's that next handful of points that's going to really differentiate. And boy, if you broaden your horizons, right, to, not just be in Texas, but let yourself go to neighboring states as well. You're just going to get yourself so many more offers if you get a couple extra points. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're not even answering Anonymous's question, which was, should I just go ahead and apply now and withdraw my registration from the October LSAT? Which is, the answer to that is a resounding no. Yeah. You should not apply to law school now. You should also not withdraw your registration for October. You should study your ass off for October.
He or she should withdraw from October and get your practice test scores up.
Yeah, but you're probably after the registration change deadline. Like you're probably not going to get any refund. So you might as well leave yourself registered up until the last minute in case you have some LSAT breakthrough.
Yeah, there's also some value. Yeah, burn the boats, because now you're going to be tempted. I can't make progress. I'm going to just go ahead and do it. No, you can do this.
You should apply next cycle. Like you could be an excellent applicant next cycle, or you can be a very typical, harried, suboptimal applicant this cycle, which is exactly what the law schools want. I mean, you're playing into their hands if you apply with this profile, because the schools are going to just be predatory. They're going to go, oh yeah, we'd love to admit you to pay full price.
Yep.
Or
even like a huge chunk, and maybe you get some sort of money thrown at you, but not very much.
Not enough, not as much as you could get if you like took this process seriously. Thanks for
Yeah.
writing in, but like this doesn't look, you're not behaving in a lawyerly fashion, because a
Yeah.
lawyer would be like, I'm going to file a continuance, then I'm going to file another continuance. I need all the time I can possibly get in order to be fully prepared for this. And in law school admissions, you get unlimited continuances, right? You can just wait as long as you want to wait until you are best situated, which is what you've got to do if you're spending your own money, which is why we do this, by the way. If it's if it's grandpa and grandma's law firm money that we're talking about, do whatever you want. Apply late in the cycle, pay full price. We don't care. But for the people who are funding this themselves, if it's you and your family making a decision here about your career and your like financial wherewithal or for the rest of your life, then please don't apply this cycle.
Yeah.
Next one.
LSAT Demon student Krishna was reading our lesson on flaw questions and asked for clarification on these 2 points about, quote, common phrasings.
When an answer starts with, quote, takes for granted or, quote, presumes without providing justification, treat that answer as a necessary assumption. In general, when these answers are strongly worded, they don't need to be assumed and are wrong. We could probably tighten that up a little bit. Is that our bullet point from the lesson?
It is. Yep, it is.
I would cut out the end of that, the part about answer choice strength. And I would try to get the point across that if an answer says, now we're talking about a flaw question. So it's a closed question, right? Which one of these did they actually do? The record shows, record's closed. The correct answer can't have any new information. It's a closed question. What did they do wrong? When an answer starts with takes for granted, that means that you're accusing them of making the necessary assumption of whatever this answer choice describes, right? You have taken this for granted. That means it has to be true according to you. It's something that you must agree with. It's a must be true. The record would indicate you have to agree with this thing. Same thing if it says presumes without providing justification. Same thing. You have necessarily assumed or presumed this thing. Without justification just means without evidence. So here you this has to be true according to you. And yeah, so that answer is a necessary assumption. So the analysis is, does the closed record show that they have to agree with this thing? And I mean, it is true that when these answers are strongly worded, they don't, they could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I would just cut that, wouldn't you, from that description?
So, one, I did write this a long time ago. And the reason I wrote it is because so often I find myself reading these answer choices, right? Takes for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says something like that all lions, blah, blah. And right when I read that, I'm like, we don't need to make assumptions about every fucking lion. If I find out that this one lion is sick. And so
yeah.
I find myself crossing out these answers so quickly as soon as I hit that.
I agree. And, I'm not saying it's not a point that should be made, but that lesson can also be learned in a much broader context, which is on closed questions generally, on must be true-ish types of questions. So must be true, supported, reasoning questions, flaw questions, necessary assumption questions, any of these descriptive class of questions. The record's closed. They're asking you to show which one the record indicates.
Yeah.
On all those types of questions.
Yeah.
Stronger answers, it's like easy for them to make wrong answers by putting something that is generally what the argument said, but then they turn the volume way up on it so that it's even slightly too high. They just turn the volume up higher than was actually merited by the facts, thereby creating a wrong answer. So when an answer starts with all or every or always or anything that indicates like certainty all the time, then it's like, well, I was already skeptical of this answer because 80% of answers are wrong. But then when you start saying, oh, they have necessarily assumed that all of anything, well, okay, so it'd be real easy for them to make this wrong.
Yep.
Then again, the record might justify that all so-and-so is so-and-so. And if it does, then that's the correct answer. So it's like, you can't be, I don't think it's a good idea to be leading with this idea that extreme answers have to be wrong. It's just one more reason to be skeptical of the wrong answers.
It doesn't say that, right? It says in general. And I am reacting, though, to the number of times that I find myself reading this answer choice exactly, takes for granted or presumes without providing justification that blah, blah, only. And then it's like, I don't even read the rest. I'm like, yeah, I don't need to make assumptions about only the people who went to this party or whatever, and in part, I have confidence because I understand what a necessary assumption is. Yeah. But I'm also aware of what I'm doing in that moment. I'm trying to convey that, but yeah.
No, that can work. So my wariness about this is that I've seen so many students put the cart before the horse. When you start teaching them about answer choice strength, they get so excited about answer choice strength that they start thinking that answer choice strength is dispositive. And they strong
answer is wrong.
Strong answer equals wrong. Whoa. Strong answer equals wrong if it's not justified by the facts. But if the strong answer can be right, and sometimes it is, and maybe what happens is you eliminate all 5 answers and then you have to go, well, one of them has to be right. And then you go back through and then maybe you consider that strong answer again. And you go, oh, well, actually the record does show that they have necessarily assumed this thing.
Yep.
As long as you don't think it's dispositive, it's fine. I just know that students tend to start leading with it. And when they start, it's like, well, let me just skim through the answers and I'll get rid of the strongly worded ones. Nah, I don't like that.
They even forget then that we're talking about takes for granted answer choices.
Right. Yeah. So takes for granted indicates and that's I guess why I wanted to separate those two issues. So maybe it's just like a different bullet point or something like that instead of trying to teach them these two concepts at once, because the definition of takes for granted or the definition of presumes without providing justification, those things are really useful.
And I would rephrase this instead of saying treat that answer as a necessary assumption. I would say when an answer starts with takes for granted or presumes without providing justification, it is saying that the author necessarily assumes what?
Yep.
And so then the question becomes, did the author necessarily have to assume this?
Which means, do they have to agree that this is true? Like, is this a must be true according to them? It's a must be true-ish type of question from that point. Okay.
Yep.
Next, still talking about flaw questions. When an answer starts with fails to consider the possibility or ignores the possibility, treat the answer as an answer that's trying to weaken the argument. If it would weaken the argument, if it would weaken the argument, if it were true, then it's probably the correct answer. In general, when these answers are weakly worded, they don't do too much to weaken the argument and are thus wrong. So again, getting into the answer choice strength part, and maybe we just need to kind of decouple that. I think the first thing, probably that sentence with those commas could probably be rewritten as well, because I couldn't read it the first time through. You and I both have like legacy explanations and old stuff that we've written and said it's throughout the daemon, but fortunately it keeps getting upvoted and downvoted and we keep improving it. So this is like Abigail is going to go do some editing based on these remarks. Go ahead, Ben.
I think what we need to do is we'll cut those out and then refocus the tip around the question that then follows from this information, right? So for example, if you're looking at a necessary assumption answer choice, reframe it and say, does the author necessarily have to agree with this? Or just, we could cut necessarily. Does the author have to agree with this?
Right. Does the author have to agree with this?
And then that allows people to catch the strong wording and say, wait a sec.
You could even say, can you prove, or does the record show that the author must agree with this?
Yeah.
Right. Now, I do want to get the point across here because there's a contrast that needs to be made, and it kind of gets buried in the answer choice strength stuff. But the contrast that needs to be made here is that if we are still on a flaw question, right, it's saying which one of the following describes a weakness of the argument above, something like that, right?
Yep.
How do they word flaw questions? I don't know why I'm blanking on how flaw questions are typically worded.
Which one of the following best describes the error in reasoning?
The error of reasoning in the argument above. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. But then if an answer choice starts with fails to consider the possibility that,
Yep.
or ignores the possibility that, it does kind of flip the question. From that point forward, it is kind of like a weakened question because it's such a low bar to get to fails to consider the possibility that, right? All they have to do is just not have brought it up.
Exactly. At the same time, it's still totally legit because we can still ask ourselves, does the record prove that they failed to consider this?
Yeah, but the bar is so low that unless they talked about it explicitly, it's almost guaranteed that they have ignored this possibility.
That's true. And so usually that first element of the test is always satisfied, but not always.
Exactly. Not
there
always,
are sometimes
yeah, but it's pretty rare. I think you agree that it's most of the time it's like, oh yeah, well they didn't mention 100% of everything else in the entire universe that they could have mentioned. So yeah, they probably failed to consider whatever this possibility is. Then you have to think about the possibility itself and think about, oh, would that create a problem for them?
Yeah. Does it matter that they ignored it? And a lot of times it doesn't.
So it is strange. It's where the flaw question category, it kind of sits on the edge between closed record and open record, because when an answer starts with ignores the possibility or fails to consider the possibility, then it's like, oh, well, you know, this isn't in the record. Did they fail to consider an important possibility? Let's hear this important possibility. And so you're now like actually considering the truth of the answer choice. Like, what if they did fail? You know, what if this was true and they failed to consider it? And you can then end up picking it on a flaw question. So it's where like it kind of transforms. You see what I'm saying? It kind of transforms that for that answer. It's like, well, would this weaken? Which is not really what you're looking for normally on a flaw question.
That's right. So it's like flaw questions in general fall under the closed question category.
Yep.
But this particular answer choice is inviting you to treat it like an open question.
Yeah, it like pierces that veil and says, okay, so, you know, we are still describing their arguments, but we're saying, well, your argument has neglected to consider this possibility, which, they probably did neglect to consider this possibility. Now, is this possibility relevant? And if it is true, it'll weaken their argument. So it's kind of like changes the question type for that answer only. Now, if we compare the two types, right, those two types of answers. So we're still on a flaw question. It's supposed to be closed record. An answer that starts with takes for granted, you know, the burden is still on you to prove that they did this thing.
Yep.
But when an answer starts with fails to consider the possibility that, or neglects to consider the possibility, or ignores the possibility, or whatever, then it's kind of like it flips the burden back to them, where it's like, well, yeah, they probably didn't talk about this. So now, is this a problem? And you're considering like, well, could it be a problem for them?
Yeah. So to be 100%
it is easier
precise,
to take those answers. Yeah.
To be 100% precise, the burden is on you at first for a second, right?
Yep.
The first question is, did they ignore this possibility? In almost all cases, they did. So you've proven that they did ignore it. And now you're shifting to, okay, they ignored it. Do I care? And then that becomes like this new question type. Yeah.
Yep. 100%. Okay. We're failing at rapid fire.
Yeah, we just can't stop talking.
Okay. Next one.
Anonymous. The subject is plug and chug.
I've heard many people on Reddit claiming that worlds didn't help on the September logic games. This is something that we talked about on LSAT Demon Daily episode 617, apparently.
Okay.
Was that a long time ago? That was probably a long time ago.
12 days ago.
Oh, it was 12 days ago. Okay, sorry. I forgot. We could have been on episode 1000 of LSAT Demon Daily. I wouldn't have known. Okay, so we're in the 600s on that show. We hear the same shit every LSAT, basically. Right?
Yeah.
The same kind of hysteria surrounding the logic games on every single test. Anyway, people said inferences they made from worlds were useless and plug and chug was the best approach. Do you think it's a good idea to practice this skill of plug and chug? Don't get me wrong. I think worlds first is the best approach. However, I think plug and chug does work better for some games than full worlds. All I know is I should probably get off Reddit until I'm done with the LSAT.
Well, I agree with that last claim. Also, I would say that it's not like two options. It's not like, oh, worlds or plug and chug.
Right.
You're always doing some sort of worlds, but hey, look, sometimes you just can't see where they're going and you decide to stop and go into the questions. That doesn't mean you then revert to plug and chug and test each individual answer choice. No, you go do if questions because those are going to be easier. They're going to give you another rule and you do the setup for that question. And that gives you a diagram that you can use to compare to other answer choices. So
also, you know, you're asking about full worlds. Like you're doing this false dichotomy between plug and chug and full worlds.
Yeah.
You're ignoring the entire gray area, which is really where you're going to make your money on doing worlds. Eric said something nicely in his class report yesterday. He said in game of the day, Eric was doing a game on the board with the class and he stopped at like skeletal worlds. You can call it hollow worlds. You call it whatever you want, but it's like he didn't go all the way to full splits looking for full worlds because that's just not a thing. Rather, he stopped at a point where he decided it's not that it's too much work from here. I just don't want to clutter things up. Like he had simplified the game enough, right? The point of making worlds is to bake the rules in. And if you can bake them in just one split, or maybe sometimes you just bake them into one world, but sometimes you do one or more splits. And the point isn't to fill out those splits all the way. That's not the point. And the point is not to make a million splits to get to full worlds, like pat yourself on the back for writing out all the possible scenarios. That's never the goal. The goal is to bake the rules in to the point where you've simplified the game now. And there's an art to it, but there's a point where you look at it and you just go, you know, I've baked in 3 of the rules. There's a couple more rules that I could try to do further splits to bake those in. But it's not that I'm trying to rush. It's not that I don't want to take the time. It's that I've already simplified the game to the point where I know I'm going to crush these questions. And that's where you stop. Highly recommend our game of the day classes. We do it like New York Times crossword style, where the Monday game of the day class is the easiest one. And then progressively the game gets harder throughout the week. And by Friday, everybody's getting together to do the hard game that week. Really kind of cool. People enjoy it a lot. Great teachers, including Eric. And yeah, so I just think that this anonymous correspondent doesn't understand this beautiful middle ground between it really is a fruitless pursuit to get to full worlds. That's never the point. The point is bake in the rules in an efficient way so that you can simplify the game.
Yep.
Then crush the questions.
Yeah.
And never, ever, no, do not practice the skill of plug and chug. Plug and chug is what you do if you've just failed to learn anything about the game. And we've got to learn something about the game before we start trying to answer the questions. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah. Like I can't think of one game where you can't make one inference. Yeah. You should be able to learn something. And that's all we're really doing when we build our worlds. You're just kind of looking for bottlenecks. You use your worlds to explore bottlenecks. And then you get to a point where you're like, oh, you know what? I've only got this 1 or 2 rules that are remaining in play. It's a simple game from here. So now let me answer the questions. All right, next one, also from Anonymous. Topic is, do I structure my law school personal statement around my early in career job layoff? Wow. If we really wanted to do rapid fire, we would just say no without reading the rest of this.
First of all, it's early in your career, so it's not current, and it's a layoff. That sounds like a loss, not a win. But anyways, Anonymous
seems like a terrible idea for a personal statement. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's see if we can just lay this to rest. Hi, Ben and Nathan. Big fan. I've been using LSAT Demon to help me with LSAT prep, and my score and confidence in my ability have improved since.
Fantastic.
Great.
Keep doing that. Like, just do that. until you crush the LSAT, and then you do not need to worry about your law school personal statement. There will be plenty of, you can write about anything if you've got the right LSAT, but go ahead.
The decision to go to law school is related to the rocky start of my career. Ooh, I don't love the sound of that. Something bad happened in your life and now you want to gain the skills that a lawyer has so you can solve these kinds of problems in the future. I'm worried.
Hope that's not the case. Yeah.
I was laid off from my first job post-college early into starting. I have since found a new job, one where I work closely with attorneys, another reason. But during the process, I learned a lot, all caps, about myself and the corporate world. Losing my job gave me time to reflect on my love for my field and led to the decision to pursue a legal career. Wait, was your field already law? I'm confused. I mean, I know you work with attorneys.
I think it's now I work with attorneys.
But before? If I structure it like this, does the statement still come off as me trying to explain away my insecurities?
Yes.
Thanks. First of all, there's not a lot of details here. I still don't know what the hell happened or why that prompted you to go into law. It just says it gave you time to reflect. I hope you're really going because of your work with attorneys now. And that's a great thing to write about. Let's write about that.
Yeah, that's the story to tell. You love your job. Your resume might show the layoff. Like I might be able to infer the layoff from your resume. That's possible. But what I'm really going to look at when I look at your resume is your current job and your education, your undergrad. Where'd you go to school? What's your major? Maybe what your GPA was. If it was good, put it on there. And what do you do now? I don't give a shit about the job before that. I don't care that you got laid off. If you start telling me about the layoff at the previous job, it's not, I mean, I guess it is you trying to explain away your insecurities, but it's you being a bad advocate for yourself. You're focusing on something bad in your application instead of focusing on something good. I want to hear about how you're killing it in your current job. So talk about that. Just start your story way later. Don't go back to the layoff and give me the background and the origin story of how. I don't give a shit. I want to know about how much you love your job right now. Like if I'm going to fall in love with you as an applicant, I'm going to be like, oh, damn, this person is a legal assistant working closely with attorneys, loves their job, wants to do that. And oh, by the way, they have the right LSAT and GPA. I'm going to move them over to my presumptive admit pile. And that's it. Like they don't think anything. They're not going to think more about that. Yeah. Do not talk about this layoff. There's no way that layoff possibly helps you. Next.
Yep. Next. This is a support question. How much should I base my choice of which schools to apply to on the scholarship estimator? For example, if the estimator shows that a school drops from more than half to less than half at 170 and I have a 167, is it still reasonable to think that I could end up with more than half scholarship from that school if I apply early?
No.
3 points? Jeez.
Three LSAT points is a lot, y'all. I mean, I think it's worth at least $30,000 in scholarships at some school. At rough $10,000 a point. It's probably maybe more than that because of inflation these days. But no, you're shortchanging yourself by settling for, you're applying with what's their median. I mean, you could probably look deeper into it too, right? Like instead of just going by, because what we're doing is we're pulling out the information from their scholarship matrix on their 509 report. And we're reflecting that in the scholarship estimator, lsatdemon.com/scholarships. If you look at their 509, I mean, it's very likely that they're 50th percentile, their median, the most important number. It's very likely that their median is 169.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why you think you're going to get more than half scholarship just because you're applying early. That's not our advice. Our advice is apply early in the cycle after you already have your best LSAT.
That's your best more LSAT. Important. Yeah.
Then apply early because it can help you kind of on the margins, but absolutely not that much.
You want to read the rest support, of this? Yeah, it says the support question continues. I guess what I'm asking is, does the estimator err on the side of making very conservative predictions or no? We make slightly conservative predictions when it comes to full tuition scholarships. we were concerned that maybe some full tuition scholarships were due to GI Bill or other sort of things that aren't related to actually getting a full ride just on the basis of your LSAT and GPA.
So we don't report more than full. I mean, the 509 report, it has more than full as an option, but we were like, yeah, but I don't know that these stipends are really real. So when something would come back more than full, we just have it reflect full. That's what you mean by we make slightly conservative estimates. Otherwise, all we're doing is pulling the data.
Yeah, I think if the full tuition scholarship numbers are also very low at a school, we may not report full tuition. Because again, the same thing may be happening. But the point is that's only for those more than full and full tuition estimates. And it's only in certain cases. In that sense, they're conservative. The rest of the estimator is following the data as best we can. But keep in mind, it's looking at last year's data because that's all that we have. The schools don't even have this year's data. They have what's happened up to this point for them, but they don't know what's going on for the rest of the year. So we can't predict what is going to happen. All we can do is say, based on your numbers now, this is how you would have done last year, which is likely to be similar to what's going to happen this year. But who knows?
Yep. And, you know, it's all the estimators do. Yeah. So it's backward looking and smoothing out a lot of rough edges and just saying like, well, on average, we're all average. So here's what an average outcome would be for an average applicant at that level.
With those numbers.
With those numbers, here's, you know, we're trying to extrapolate from their scholarship matrix and their LSAT and GPA ranges. We're trying to like kind of match people, but you're still going to get an individual offer. I mean, the scholarship estimator could say less than half and they could offer you full. Or the scholarship estimator could say full and they could offer you less than half. You're going to get different offers at every single school. That's why you got to apply broadly. You got to apply to 15, 20 of these schools so that you can get back a portfolio of offers, you know, and one or more of them will really pay off for you.
Yep.
You know, and sometimes it's like when people do this and then they get admitted to Harvard, you know, and it's like, oh shit, I never was even going to think about that. But I got denied at all these other schools, but some like Harvard wants me.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's why you have to shoot some shots and you just apply to this broad range of schools to see what kinds of offers you actually end up getting.
I think the point of the estimator is to give you ideas.
Yes.
Right. Like it's a rough target range, but hey, will you get a full tuition scholarship at this school? Maybe not. But apply to 10 schools that tell you you're going to get a full tuition scholarship, and you're very likely to get full tuition scholarships from many of them, and then you can pick.
Yeah. You know what would be neat is if by default, there was a shaded area of like 15 schools for any LSAT and GPA range. This like shaded area of the estimator pops up and it says, just super rough. Here's kind of this is if you were totally geographically flexible, boom.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it would be imperfect and probably people would misuse it and they would only apply to those exactly those schools. You know, people would do dumb shit. But the idea is use the artificial intelligence to generate ideas.
Yeah.
That's what you should be doing, right? It's just, hey, I never thought about applying to UC Irvine, but you know, it looks like they're right in the perfect range for me. They would give me full tuition or more, or, you know, more than half at least. And maybe that's a good school for me to try to apply to see what kind of an offer I get back. That's really the only way you should be using the estimator. But I do like that idea of a shaded like target band of schools.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's what we'd recommend.
It's just that people would have to promise not to misuse it.
Pop up. I agree to the terms of this agreement.
Yeah. All right. Has it been enough of our bullshit for one day?
It has been.
Okay.
Be LSAT famous. Please ask questions or share news with us at thinkinglsat.com. If you have questions about the LSAT Demon, you can email help@lsatdemon.com. Check out our other podcast. That's LSAT Demon Daily. That was episode 422 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Nice knowing ya. Don't pay for law school.